Owen Chandler straightened his silver tie as he stepped out of his sleek black Mercedes. The warm evening air of downtown Atlanta brushed against his crisp white shirt. At 33, he had built everything he had dreamed of. His tech company, Chandler Solutions, was now one of the biggest in the Southeast. He owned a beautiful house in Buckhead and was dating someone he thought could be the one. Tonight was important. It was his 8-month anniversary with Preston Hayes, the elegant lawyer who had caught his eye at a business dinner. Owen walked around to open the passenger door for her, his movements smooth and practiced. "You look stunning tonight," Owen said, offering his hand to help Preston from the car. Her black dress hugged her tall frame perfectly, and her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat bun. "Thank you, darling," Preston replied with a smile that seemed forced. She had been distant lately, but Owen blamed it on the stress from her big court case. The Golden Peach was Atlanta's most exclusive restaurant. Getting a table usually took months, unless you were Owen Chandler. The host greeted them with respect. "Mr. Chandler, Ms. Hayes, welcome back. Your usual table is ready." They followed him through the softly lit dining room. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the dark wood tables and rich red curtains. Owen nodded at familiar faces as they walked: clients, business partners, and competitors. Their table sat by the large windows overlooking the city lights. As they settled into their seats, Owen reached into his jacket pocket. His heart was beating fast. "Preston, I have something for you," he said, pulling out a small black box. Preston's eyes grew wide. "Owen, we talked about this." "It's not a ring," he said quickly, smiling. "Not yet." He pushed the box across the table. "Open it." Inside was a gold key on an expensive keychain. Preston picked it up, looking confused. "It's the key to my house," Owen explained. "I want you to move in with me." Before Preston could answer, a voice spoke from behind Owen. "Good evening. Welcome to the Golden Peach. I'll be taking care of you tonight." Owen's blood turned cold. He knew that voice, soft and rich, with a hint of warmth that years in Atlanta hadn't changed. A voice that had once whispered, "I love you," and later said, "I can't do this anymore." The wine glass slipped from his hand, spilling red wine across the white tablecloth. He turned slowly, his heart pounding hard against his chest. Standing there in the restaurant's black uniform was Essence Ward, his ex-wife. Her beautiful dark skin seemed to glow in the soft light. Her hair was shorter now, framing her strong face in a way that made her cheekbones stand out. But what made Owen's heart stop was the gentle curve of her belly under her apron. "Tonight's specials include," Essence began in her professional voice, but stopped when their eyes met. Recognition flashed across her face, followed by surprise, then a careful mask of calm. "Owen?" "Essence," he managed to say, his voice barely a whisper. His eyes dropped to her stomach. "You're pregnant," she finished, placing a protective hand over her belly. 6 months along. Preston looked back and forth between them, clearly confused. "Owen, do you know our server?" Before he could answer, Essence spoke up. "I'm his ex-wife." She turned to Preston with a polite smile. "And you must be the girlfriend I read about in Atlanta Business Journal." "Fiancé, actually," Preston said, though Owen had never actually proposed. She held up her wrist, showing off the diamond bracelet he'd given her for her birthday. Preston Hayes. Something flickered in Essence's eyes before she regained her composure. "Congratulations. Now about those specials." Owen barely heard her talk about the chef's dishes. His mind was spinning, 6 months pregnant. They had been divorced for 10 months. But the timing. "I'll give you both time to decide," Essence said, starting to walk away. "Wait," Owen called out. "Essence, we need to talk." "I'm working, Owen," she replied without turning around. "Some of us have to." The words stung. When they were married, Essence had been finishing her master's degree in social work. She had wanted to help children and families. Now she was waiting tables while pregnant. "Who is she?" Preston demanded once Essence was gone. "And why didn't you tell me you were married before?" Owen ran his hand through his brown hair. "It was a long time ago," he said, though it felt like yesterday. "We met in college. Got married young. It didn't work out." "Clearly," Preston said coldly. "And the baby?" "It's not mine," Owen said quickly. "It can't be. We've been divorced for months." But even as he said it, he wondered. The last time he had seen Essence was during their final divorce meeting. They had fought bitterly in the lawyer's office, then ended up in his car afterward, a painful goodbye that left them both broken. Throughout dinner, Owen couldn't focus on Preston's talk about her law practice. His eyes kept finding Essence as she moved between tables, never coming back to theirs. Another server had taken over without explanation. She looked tired. He could see the dark circles under her makeup. But there was also something peaceful about her, a softness that hadn't been there during the angry end of their marriage. "Owen, are you even listening to me?" Preston's sharp voice cut through his thoughts. "I'm sorry," he said, reaching for her hand. "It's just a shock seeing her here." "Well, get over it," Preston snapped. "This is supposed to be our special night, and you're spending it staring at your pregnant ex-wife." As they finished dessert, Owen made a choice. "I need to talk to her." "If you leave this table to chase after her," Preston warned, "don't expect me to be here when you get back." Owen hesitated, torn between the woman he thought was his future and the woman who had once been his whole world. "I'll just be a minute," he promised, standing up. He found Essence in the staff area, taking off her apron. "Your shift is over?" he asked. "Owen, you can't be back here," she said, looking around nervously. "The baby," he said, getting straight to the point. "Is it mine?" Essence's hand went to her stomach automatically. "That's none of your business." "If it's my child, it absolutely is my business," he insisted, stepping closer. "The timing, Essence, 6 months. That's right around when our divorce was final." Her eyes filled with tears that she refused to let fall. "Go back to your fiancé, Owen." "You've moved on, so have I." "Have you? Because last I heard you were finishing your social work degree. Now you're waiting tables. What happened?" The old nickname slipped out without him thinking, and he saw her flinch. "Life happened," she replied bitterly. "Now please, I need this job." As she tried to walk past him, Owen caught her arm gently. "Let me help you." Essence pulled away. "Like you helped last time? No thanks." She grabbed her coat and purse. "Congratulations on your engagement. I hope you both find the happiness I never had with you." She walked out the back door, leaving Owen standing alone with his regrets and a growing certainty that the child she carried was his. Owen returned to the table to find Preston scrolling through her phone. The black box with the key was closed and pushed aside. She didn't look up as he sat down. "She left," he said, motioning for the check. "Through the back door." "How convenient," Preston replied sarcastically. She finally looked at him, her green eyes sharp with anger. "So, were you planning to mention your ex-wife before or after I moved in with you?" Owen sighed, running his hand through his hair again, a habit from his stressful early business days. "Preston, my marriage to Essence ended a long time ago." 10 months is hardly ancient history, Owen. And from the way you looked at her, it's clearly not as over as you'd like me to believe. The waiter brought the check. Owen handed over his credit card without looking at the total. Money hadn't been a concern for him in years. When the waiter left, Owen leaned forward. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you. The divorce was painful. I wanted to put it behind me." "And the baby?" Preston pressed. "Is it yours?" "No," Owen said firmly, though doubt was growing in his mind. "It can't be." The ride back to Preston's apartment in Virginia Highland was tense. Soft jazz played on the car's sound system, but neither of them spoke. When Owen pulled up to her building, he turned to her. "I still want you to move in with me," he said, reaching for her hand. Preston pulled away. "I need time, Owen. This is a lot to process." She opened the car door herself. "Call me tomorrow." Owen watched her walk up the steps to her door. She didn't look back as she went inside. He sat there for a long moment before pulling away. But instead of going home to his house in Buckhead, he found himself driving to the west side of Atlanta, to the neighborhood where he and Essence had lived when they were first married. The small house still stood on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Its white paint was faded now, and the front porch sagged a little. Owen parked across the street, memories flooding back. They had rented this tiny 2-bedroom house when Essence was still in graduate school, and Owen was just starting his company with nothing but big dreams and credit card debt. They had been happy then, despite working long hours and having little money. Essence would study at the kids' dance table while Owen worked on business plans. Every Friday, they would order pizza and eat it on their old couch, talking about their future together. Where had it all gone wrong? The next morning, Owen canceled his meetings and made 2 phone calls. The first was to a private investigator he sometimes used for business purposes. "I need information on Essence Ward. She goes by her maiden name now. She's working as a server at the Golden Peach restaurant. I want to know where she lives, what happened to her social work career, and anything else you can find. Keep this quiet. The second call was to his lawyer. Jordan, I need to know something. If my ex-wife is pregnant and there's a chance the child is mine, what are my rights? 3 days passed with no word from Preston, despite Owen's calls and texts. On the 4th day, his investigator delivered a detailed report. Owen read it in his office, the floor-to-ceiling windows showing a beautiful view of the Atlanta skyline that he barely noticed. Essence was living in a small apartment in East Atlanta, far from the nice neighborhoods they had moved to after his business took off. She had finished her master's degree in social work 8 months ago, but hadn't been able to find a job in her field. The report showed she had been involved with Dr. Michael Thompson, the head of social services at a major hospital, and a married man. The scandal had made it hard for her to find work at reputable organizations in the area. With student loans to pay and no social work job available, she had taken the restaurant job to survive. There was no mention of who the baby's father was. Owen closed the file, feeling angry, worried, and guilty all at once. Angry at Essence for getting involved with a married man, worried about her money situation, and guilty because he knew their divorce had been his fault. He had become obsessed with growing Chandler Solutions, working 18-hour days, missing dinners, anniversaries, even her graduation. She had begged him to slow down, to remember why they had started this journey together. But success had been like a drug, and he had chosen his company over his marriage. Send her in. Preston entered wearing a sharp white suit that contrasted with her blonde hair. She stayed standing, refusing his gesture toward the leather chair. I've been thinking, she began without small talk. And doing some research. Owen raised an eyebrow. Research? About your ex-wife. Preston crossed her arms. Did you know she was involved in a scandal with her married supervisor? It was quite the gossip in certain circles. I just found out, Owen admitted, pointing to the closed file on his desk. So you're investigating her? It wasn't really a question. Still worried about her after she left you? It's complicated, Preston. No, it's quite simple. She placed her hands on his desk, leaning forward. You're still in love with her. I deserve better than being someone's second choice. Owen stood and walked around the desk toward her. Preston, I care about you deeply. But you don't love me, she finished for him. Not the way you loved her, maybe still love her. She reached into her purse and pulled out the black box with the key. I won't be moving in. He took the box, their fingers touching briefly. I'm sorry. So am I. She moved toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, Owen, I think you should find out if that baby is yours. And if it is, do better by them than you did by her the first time. After Preston left, Owen stood at his office window, watching cars move through the city streets. The investigator's report had included Essence's work schedule at the Golden Peach. She would be there tonight. That evening, Owen waited outside the restaurant's staff entrance. The sky had darkened, and streetlights cast yellow circles on the wet pavement from an earlier thunderstorm. When Essence came out, her coat pulled tight around her, she stopped short when she saw him leaning against his car. Are you following me now? She asked, holding her purse closer. We need to talk. There's nothing to say. She started walking toward the bus stop. Owen fell into step beside her. I know about Dr. Thompson. Essence stopped walking. How dare you? I'm not judging you, he said quickly. I'm worried about you. Working on your feet all day can't be good for the baby. Don't pretend you care about this baby, she snapped. You made it very clear during our divorce that children weren't in your 5-year plan. The words hurt because they were true. When Essence had talked about starting a family, Owen had dismissed the idea, focused only on growing his company. People change, he said quietly. Priorities change. Essence laughed bitterly. Not you, Owen. You're still the same ambitious man who put his company before his marriage. That's not fair, isn't it? You're CEO now, just like you always wanted. Congratulations. She started walking again. Now leave me alone. The baby, Owen said, keeping up with her. Is it mine? Essence stopped again, turning to face him fully. In the glow of the streetlight, he could see how tired she looked, the dark circles under her eyes. Why would you think that? The timing. After our divorce was final, that day in my car, her expression softened briefly before hardening again. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Owen's voice rose, making people on the street look at them. He lowered it. If that's my child, I have a right to know. Rights? Essence's eyes flashed with anger. Let me tell you about rights, Owen. You had the right to be a husband when we were married. You had the right to be there when I needed you. You chose not to use those rights. She pressed a hand to her belly. As for this baby, Dr. Thompson is the father. The words hit Owen like a punch. You're sure? Positive, Essence said, her voice steady. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to catch the last bus. As she walked away, Owen called after her. Let me drive you home. It's late, and East Atlanta isn't the safest area. Essence turned back, suspicion in her eyes. How do you know where I live? Owen had the decency to look embarrassed. I was worried about you. So you had me investigated? She shook her head in disbelief. Your control issues haven't changed. Despite her anger, a cold wind made Essence shiver, and Owen saw her glance uncertainly toward the bus stop several blocks away. It's just a ride, Essence. No strings attached. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded reluctantly. Fine, but just a ride. The inside of Owen's Mercedes smelled of expensive leather and his cologne, a scent that brought back memories for Essence as she settled into the passenger seat. She remembered buying him that cologne for their second anniversary, never thinking that one day they would be strangers to each other. They drove in silence for several minutes. Essence was very aware of Owen next to her, the way his hands gripped the steering wheel, the slight line between his eyebrows as he focused on the road. He had always been handsome in a clean-cut way, with strong features and those calm gray eyes that seemed to see everything. How are you feeling? He finally asked, his voice gentler than before. With the pregnancy, I mean. Essence placed a protective hand over her rounded belly, tired. My feet hurt after an 8-hour shift. You shouldn't be working so hard in your condition. Not all of us have the luxury of choice, Owen. She turned to look at him directly. Some of us have student loans and rent to pay. He frowned. The divorce settlement should have... I didn't take your money, she cut him off. I didn't want anything from you. That was pride talking, not common sense. Maybe, she admitted, but it was my decision. As they drove into East Atlanta, the neighborhoods grew less fancy. Owen's expensive car stood out among the modest houses and small apartment buildings. Turn left at the next light, Essence directed, then right on flat shoals. Owen followed her directions, pulling up in front of a weathered apartment building with peeling paint and a broken front light. He frowned as he looked around. The flickering streetlights, the group of young men on the corner, the bars on some windows. This is where you live? Not all of us can afford houses in Buckhead, Essence replied defensively. She reached for the door handle. Thanks for the ride. Wait. Owen put his hand on her arm, then quickly pulled it back when she tensed. Let me walk you to your door. That's not necessary. Please, Essence. It would make me feel better. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. Owen came around to open her door, offering his hand to help her out, a gesture she ignored, struggling to get up on her own. Her apartment was on the second floor, reached by narrow stairs that creaked under their weight. Careful, Owen warned, staying close behind her as she slowly climbed. At her door, scratched and dented from break-in attempts, Essence fumbled with her keys. Well, this is me. Thanks again for the ride. Owen looked troubled. This building isn't safe, Essence. The security is practically nothing. It's what I can afford, she said simply, pushing the door open to show a tiny studio apartment. The space was clean but sparse, a futon that served as both couch and bed, a small kit-stone set, a desk covered with social work textbooks, and a single window looking out at the street. Owen took in the humble surroundings with a frown. His eyes stopped on a framed ultrasound picture on the desk, the only personal touch in the otherwise basic space. Is that... He pointed toward the image. Essence nodded. My 20-week scan. It's a girl. Something flickered in Owen's eyes. Longing, regret, she couldn't tell which. A daughter, he said softly. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Essence broke the silence. It's late, Owen. I have an early shift tomorrow. He nodded, taking a reluctant step back. If you need anything. I don't, she interrupted firmly. Good night. After he left, Essence sank onto her futon, one hand resting on her belly as her daughter kicked actively. It's okay, little one, she whispered. He's gone now. But seeing Owen again, being in his presence, had stirred up feelings she had worked hard to bury. And his questions about the baby. Essence looked at the ultrasound picture, guilt twisting in her stomach. She had lied to him. Dr. Thompson wasn't the father of her child. Owen was. That day in his car after signing the divorce papers had resulted in more than just painful memories. But she had made her choice. Owen Chandler had already broken her heart once. She wouldn't give him the chance to break their daughters too. The next morning, Essence woke to a knock at her door. Cautious, she looked through the peephole to find a delivery man holding a large package. "Delivery for Essence Ward," he announced when she opened the door. "I didn't order anything," she said, confused. "It's already paid for, ma'am." He handed her a clipboard to sign, then left the heavy package just inside her door. Inside, Essence found a high-quality air purifier, a pregnancy pillow, a gift card for a grocery delivery service, and several bags of groceries with organic produce, prenatal vitamins, and healthy snacks. A note card with Chandler Solutions logo had a simple message in Owen's neat handwriting: "For cleaner air and better rest." No strings attached. Essence's first thought was to return everything. But the practical side of her realized she needed these items. Her budget was stretched thin, and the organic groceries would last her at least 2 weeks. Still, accepting help from Owen felt like opening a door she had firmly closed. Later that afternoon, her phone rang with an unknown number. "Ms. Ward," a professional female voice said. "This is Dr. Hannah Mitchell from Atlanta Women's Health. We had a cancellation and can fit you in for your prenatal checkup today at 3 p.m. instead of next week. Would that work for you?" Essence frowned. "There must be a mistake. I don't have an appointment at Atlanta Women's Health. My prenatal care is through the community clinic. Our records show that your insurance was updated yesterday to our premium care package. It includes all prenatal visits, delivery, and 6 months of postnatal care at our facility." Cold realization washed over Essence. Who authorized this change? The policy is through Chandler Solutions' Executive Health Plan. It was arranged by Mr. Owen Chandler personally. Essence gripped her phone tighter. "Cancel it, all of it. I don't want or need his insurance." "Ms. Ward, this is one of the best maternal care packages available." "Cancel it," Essence repeated firmly. "And please tell Mr. Chandler to stop interfering in my life." She hung up, angry. How dare he? First the gifts, now this. It was exactly like Owen to think he could fix everything with money without addressing the real problems between them. Her phone buzzed with a text message. "The clinic has a 15% complication rate for deliveries. Atlanta Women's Health is the best in the state. This isn't about us, Essence. Please reconsider. Owen." Before she could respond, her phone rang again. Her supervisor at the Golden Peach. "Essence, I'm calling about your schedule," the manager began. "We're cutting back your hours to part-time, but we're keeping your full-time salary and benefits." "What? Why?" Essence asked, alarmed. She needed those hours, orders from the owner. Apparently, Mr. Peterson received a call from someone concerned about a pregnant employee working too many hours. He specifically mentioned you by name. Essence closed her eyes, counting to 10 before responding. "This someone, was it Owen Chandler?" "I'm not supposed to say," the manager replied, though her tone confirmed Essence's suspicion. "But your position is secure, and as I said, your pay won't be affected." After hanging up, Essence grabbed her coat and purse. She'd had enough. It was time to confront Owen directly. Chandler Solutions occupied the top 8 floors of a gleaming glass building in Midtown Atlanta. Essence walked into the lobby, ignoring the curious looks her pregnant figure in casual clothes attracted among the business suits. "I need to see Owen Chandler," she told the receptionist at the security desk. The young woman looked up apologetically. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but he'll want to see me." "Tell him Essence Ward is here." 5 minutes later, she was in a private elevator going to the top floor. Owen's assistant, a professional woman in her 50s, met her with a kind smile. "He's just finishing a call, Ms. Ward. He asked if you'd wait in his office." Owen's corner office was exactly as Essence had imagined, spacious and elegant, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering spectacular views of Atlanta's skyline. Awards and business magazines featuring Owen lined one wall, while another displayed a large abstract painting she recognized from their former home. What surprised her was the photograph on his desk, not of Preston, as she'd expected, but of Essence and Owen on their wedding day, both laughing as they fed each other cake. She picked it up, a lump forming in her throat. Why would he keep this here in his place of business? I never put it away, Owen's voice came from behind her. He stood in the doorway, jacket off, tie loosened, still every inch the powerful CEO, despite the casual look. Even during the worst of our divorce, Essence set the frame down carefully. You had no right to interfere with my job or my medical care. Owen closed the door and walked toward her, stopping at a respectful distance. I'm worried about you, Essence. That apartment isn't safe, you're working too hard, and community clinics are overcrowded and understaffed. That doesn't give you the right to take control of my life. Her voice rose with anger. You lost that right when you chose this, she gestured around his expensive office, over our marriage. I know, he admitted quietly, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. The simple admission caught Essence off guard. Owen Chandler didn't admit mistakes. He justified decisions, reframed problems as opportunities, but never acknowledged failure. What happened with your fiancé, she asked, suddenly realizing what the wedding photo's prominent placement meant. Preston ended things, he said. She recognized what I was only beginning to understand myself. He met Essence's gaze directly. I never stopped loving you. Essence took a step back, her heart pounding. Don't do this, Owen, not now. When then? He moved closer, his gray eyes intense. We've wasted so much time already. You can't just walk back into my life and expect everything to be fixed with grand gestures and declarations, Essence said, finding her voice. You broke us, Owen. You chose your ambition over our marriage. I know, he said, surprising her again with his honesty. And I've paid for that choice every day since you left. He gestured to the expensive office. All of this means nothing without someone to share it with. Essence crossed her arms protectively over her belly. So that's what this is about? You're lonely and want your ex-wife back to complete the picture of success? Owen shook his head. This isn't about completing any picture. It's about realizing what truly matters. He paused, his expression more vulnerable than Essence had ever seen. Losing you was my wake-up call. Too late, I know, but I've changed. People don't change, Owen. Their priorities do. He gestured toward her stomach. That baby is none of your concern, she cut him off sharply. But what if she is? Owen challenged, stepping closer. What if she's mine? Essence felt cornered both physically and emotionally. I told you, Dr. Thompson. Is a convenient lie, Owen finished for her. I had my investigator look into Michael Thompson. He was at a medical conference in Denver the week after our divorce was finalized, the time when this baby would have been conceived. Essence's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. You had no right to investigate my personal life. Maybe not, Owen admitted, but I needed to know the truth. His voice softened. The baby is mine, isn't she? The direct question hung in the air between them. Essence considered continuing the lie, but exhaustion swept over her. She was tired of struggling alone, tired of pretending, tired of denying the truth that grew more obvious each day. Yes, she finally admitted, tears welling in her eyes. She's yours. Owen exhaled shakily as if he'd been holding his breath. He took another step toward her, stopping when she held up her hand. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, his voice a mixture of hurt and wonder. Because I didn't want her to be a Chandler Solutions obligation, Essence said bitterly. I didn't want her to grow up feeling like an afterthought to her father's company, the way I felt for the last 2 years of our marriage. Owen flinched at her words. I deserved that, but I want to do better, Essence, for both of you. How? By throwing money around, by trying to control every aspect of our lives? She shook her head. That's not what we need. Then tell me what you do need, he pleaded. Because I can't stand knowing you're living in that unsafe apartment, working on your feet all day, struggling to make ends meet when I have the means to help you. I need. Essence's voice broke. What did she need? Pride had kept her from accepting Owen's financial support during the divorce. But was it fair to deny her daughter a better situation because of her pride? I need to know this isn't just about the baby, that you're not just trying to secure your heir. Owen's expression softened. This is about our family, Essence. The family I was too blind to appreciate when I had it. He took a careful step forward, and this time she didn't back away. Let me show you how much things have changed. Words are easy, Owen. You always were good with those. Then judge me by my actions, he challenged. Give me 6 months. If I haven't proven myself to you by then, I'll respect whatever boundaries you set for our relationship moving forward. Essence considered his offer. 6 months would take them past the baby's birth, a critical time when she would need support the most. And despite everything, a small part of her still wanted to believe in the man she'd once loved enough to marry. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked cautiously. "Move into one of my properties, not with me," he added quickly, seeing her expression. "I own a townhouse in Virginia Highland that's sitting empty. It's in a safe neighborhood, close to good schools and hospitals. Take a leave from waitressing, focus on your health and the baby, and in return, let me be involved in the pregnancy. Doctor appointments, birthing classes, preparations for the baby's arrival." His eyes were earnest. "I don't want to miss any more moments, Essence." It was a generous offer, more than generous. And yet, Essence hesitated, wary of becoming dependent on Owen again. "I'd need to find a job after the baby comes. A social work position." "I have connections at several hospitals and social service agencies," Owen said. "Not to pressure you," he added quickly. "But if you want, I could arrange introductions." "Your credentials would speak for themselves." Essence weighed her options. Her current situation was dangerous at best. The apartment was unsafe, the neighborhood rough. Working at the Golden Peach was physically demanding, and the community clinic was overcrowded. Was it worth rejecting Owen's help just to prove a point? "All right," she finally said. 6 months, but I pay rent for the townhouse, a fair market rate that I can afford on a social worker's salary once I'm working again." Relief washed over Owen's face. "Agreed. And no more grand gestures or interference without asking me first," she added firmly. "I promise," he said solemnly. "Partners in this, just like we should have been all along." The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of changes. The Virginia Highland townhouse was more beautiful than Essence had expected. A 3-story home with hardwood floors, large windows, and a nursery that Owen had professionally decorated in soft purples and creams. True to his word, he attended every doctor's appointment, asked thoughtful questions, and even signed them up for weekend birthing classes, where he participated with endearing awkwardness among the other expectant fathers. More surprising was the change in his work habits. Owen now left the office by 6 each evening, declining business dinners and weekend conferences that would have once been non-negotiable. He had his assistant block out Thursday afternoons for standing appointments, which Essence discovered meant accompanying her to prenatal checkups. "Mr. Chandler has shifted his priorities significantly," his assistant confided to Essence one day, when she arrived at the office to meet Owen for lunch. "The board isn't thrilled, but the company's performance hasn't suffered. If anything, he's making better decisions in less time." Meanwhile, Owen's connection at the Department of Family and Children's Services had indeed led to an interview. The director had been impressed with Essence's education and experience, offering her a position to start 6 months after the baby's birth, with the option of part-time hours initially. As her due date approached, Essence found herself relaxing into a cautious trust. Owen had kept every promise, respecting her boundaries while remaining consistently present. He had even attended therapy sessions with her at her request, where they began the difficult work of addressing the wounds from their failed marriage. "I was scared," he admitted during one session. "Success was something I could control. Relationships' real closeness, that terrified me, so I hid in work where I knew the rules." "And now?" the therapist asked. Owen looked at Essence, his expression open. "Now I'm still scared, but I'm more afraid of losing what truly matters than I am of being vulnerable." On a cool spring evening, as they walked through Piedmont Park after a birthing class, Essence felt the first contraction. She gripped Owen's arm, breathing through the sudden pain. "It's time," she said when it passed, meeting his suddenly worried eyes with a calm smile. 20 hours later, Madison Grace Chandler entered the world, her strong cries filling the delivery room as Owen cut the umbilical cord with shaking hands. The nurse placed the swaddled infant in Essence's arms, and Owen sat carefully on the edge of the hospital bed, his finger captured in his daughter's tiny grip. "She's perfect," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "You're both perfect." Essence looked up at him, exhausted but glowing. "She has your stubborn chin." "Poor kid," Owen joked, but his gaze never left his daughter's face. In the quiet hours of that first night, as Madison slept in the hospital bassinet beside Essence's bed, Owen pulled a chair close and took Essence's hand in his. "I have something to ask you," he said softly, "and I want you to know that however you answer, nothing changes about my commitment to you and Madison." Essence's heart quickened. What is it? From his pocket, Owen pulled out a small velvet box, different from the one he'd offered Preston months ago. This isn't about completing any picture of success, he said, echoing her earlier words. This is about the fact that these past few months have been the happiest of my life, despite all the complications and history between us. He opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring. I'm not asking you to forget the past. I'm asking for a chance to build a better future together as a family. Will you marry me, Essence? Again, Essence looked from the ring to Madison's sleeping form to Owen's hopeful face. The man before her was both familiar and new, the ambitious, brilliant Owen she'd fallen in love with in college, but tempered now with humility and a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. On one condition, she said, her lips curving into a smile at his anxious expression. No more 16-hour workdays. Madison and I need you present, not just providing. I was thinking more like 8 hours, Owen countered, relief washing over his features. 10 at most, and no working weekends. In that case, Essence said, reaching for his hand. Yes, I'll marry you again, Owen Chandler. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then leaned forward to kiss her gently. I promise you won't regret giving us this second chance. As if on cue, Madison stirred in her bassinet, her tiny face scrunching up as she prepared to cry. Owen reached for her before Essence could move, lifting his daughter with newfound confidence. Hey there, princess, he murmured, cradling her against his chest. Did you hear that? Your mama just made me the happiest man in Atlanta again. Watching them together, Owen swaying gently as Madison settled back to sleep against his shoulder, Essence felt the last of her doubts fade away. They had a long road ahead, rebuilding trust and creating new patterns as partners and parents. But for the first time in years, she believed in their future together. Sometimes, she reflected, the most unexpected reunions led to the most beautiful new beginnings. If you enjoyed this story, kindly like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more. See you next time.